weirdest deep-sea phenomena ever recorded. 1. Underwater brine lakes. At the bottom of the Gulf of Mexico there are lakes, actual lakes, with shorelines, waves, and currents, sitting inside the ocean. They form because ancient salt deposits dissolve and pool on the seafloor, creating water so dense and salty it doesn't mix with the ocean above it. It sits there as a completely separate body of water. The boundary between the brine lake and the ocean above it is called a halocline, and anything that swims into it dies almost instantly from the salt concentration and lack of oxygen. Eels have been filmed writhing at the edge, disoriented and dying, before drifting back out. The lakes just sit there, killing everything that touches them, completely silent. 2. Sailors reported this for centuries, and nobody believed them. An entire stretch of ocean, glowing bright blue-white in the dark, stretching sometimes hundreds of kilometers in every direction, visible from space. It looks like the ocean is on fire from below, with cold light. It's caused by bioluminescent bacteria, not individual creatures flashing, but trillions of bacteria glowing continuously in coordination across a massive area. The exact trigger for why they synchronize across such distances is still not fully understood. Satellite imagery has confirmed it multiple times. Ships have sailed through it for hours before reaching the edge. The water looks like you're moving across a glowing white desert. 3. Hydrothermal vents. In 1977, scientists found something that broke a fundamental assumption about life: that all ecosystems need sunlight. 2.5 kilometers down on the ocean floor, they found cracks in the Earth's crust shooting superheated water at 400 degrees Celsius. And surrounding those cracks was an entire thriving ecosystem. Tube worms 2 meters tall, blind shrimp, giant clams, all surviving on chemosynthesis, feeding off the chemicals in the vent water instead of sunlight. Every creature in that ecosystem would die on the surface. The vents themselves look like chimneys belching black smoke into freezing water. Some vent communities have been active for tens of thousands of years, completely isolated from the rest of the planet. 4. Brinicles. When extremely cold, salty water sinks from sea ice above. It's colder and denser than the seawater around it. As it descends, it freezes the water it touches, forming a hollow tube of ice growing downward in real time, a brinicle. It looks like a stalactite made of ice forming underwater, growing toward the seafloor. When it reaches the bottom, it spreads across the seabed and freezes everything it touches. Starfish, sea urchins, anything in its path gets frozen solid where it stands. BBC cameras caught this on film for the first time in 2011, and the footage looks completely impossible. A river of ice creeping across the ocean floor, killing everything it crosses. 5. Deep-sea whirlpools. The ocean has whirlpools that extend not just on the surface, but kilometers downward into the deep sea. Called mesoscale eddies, some of them are 150 kilometers wide and reach depths of 2 kilometers, rotating for months or even years. They trap water inside them. The chemistry, temperature, and biology of water inside an eddy can be completely different from the water just outside it. Creatures get trapped inside and travel thousands of kilometers from where they started. Some eddies carry warm water into cold regions. Others carry cold water into warm regions, creating isolated pockets of completely different ocean conditions, rotating slowly in the dark. 6. Underwater waterfalls. The largest waterfall on Earth is underwater, and almost nobody knows it exists. Between Greenland and Iceland, the Denmark Strait carries cold, dense water that plunges 3,500 meters downward, more than 3 times the height of Angel Falls. The volume of water moving through it is 2,000 times the flow of the Amazon River. It's invisible from the surface. It happens because cold water is denser than warm water, so when cold Arctic water meets warmer Atlantic water, it sinks rapidly and cascades down the ocean floor slope. There are several of these underwater cataracts around the world, quietly moving volumes of water that dwarf anything on land. 7. Marine snow. In the deep ocean, it constantly snows. Not water ice. Marine snow is a continuous slow fall of organic particles drifting down from the surface. Dead plankton, fecal matter, shed skin, decaying organisms. It clumps into white flakes and drifts downward for weeks, sometimes traveling 4,000 meters before hitting the seafloor. The entire deep-sea ecosystem below the photic zone depends on it. Creatures have evolved specifically to intercept it at different depths, creating layered feeding systems in the water column. At the very bottom, where marine snow accumulates over millions of years, it forms sediment layers that scientists core sample to read the history of the ocean, going back hundreds of millions of years. The deep sea floor is essentially a library written in falling debris. 8. Bioluminescent waves. On certain coastlines on certain nights, every wave that breaks glows electric blue. It happens when massive concentrations of bioluminescent plankton, dinoflagellates, are disturbed by movement and flash in response. Each individual organism is microscopic. Together they turn entire bays into light shows. The Maldives, Puerto Rico's Mosquito Bay, and certain beaches in California have recorded it. The plankton flash as a defense mechanism. The sudden light startles or confuses predators. When you swim through a bioluminescent bay, your entire body trails blue fire. Every movement you make in the water draws light. It looks like the ocean is alive and responding to you. And technically it is. 9. Deep-sea brine pools. With life. Going back to brine lakes. Because some of them shouldn't have life in them, but do. In the Mediterranean seafloor, there are brine pools so toxic that most things die on contact. But scientists found organisms living not just at the edges, but inside them. Single-celled organisms called extremophiles that have no mitochondria, functioning without oxygen entirely. They are the only multicellular animals ever found living permanently in a completely anoxic environment. They were assumed to be impossible before they were discovered. Their existence suggests that life doesn't need oxygen as a baseline requirement, which has significant implications for where else in the universe life might exist. 10. The bloop in 1997, NOAA hydrophones, underwater microphones placed across the Pacific to monitor nuclear tests, picked up an ultra-low frequency sound. Extraordinarily loud. Loud enough to be detected by sensors thousands of kilometers apart simultaneously. It rose in frequency over about a minute and then stopped. It was named the bloop. The sound profile matched a living creature more than any geological event. The problem was the size calculation. Whatever produced a sound that loud at that frequency would have to be significantly larger than a blue whale. NOAA later attributed it to icequake activity, cracking Antarctic ice. Many scientists accept this. The original recording is still publicly available. It still sounds like something alive.